and we're going to be talking specifically about MuleSoft IDP, Intelligent Document Processing. And Cheryl was kind enough in the process of this to provide some sample use cases in her particular industry in which she's a subject matter expert, which is insurance payer. Is that correct, Cheryl?
That's correct. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, because I'm the guy who's concerned with moving data, right? So I don't necessarily know like you do. It's like kind of like, all right, what happens when it's on with it when this happens and when that happens, right? So I'm so glad you're here to help with that. The first thing we'll do, I suppose, is kind of look at what our agenda is going to be. We'll start with the what we do here at TELUS International as far as the MuleSoft or the integration practice is concerned. We will also look at the power of intelligent document processing, kind of some things to think about and how it works in the world. I'm then going to showcase some use cases around invoices, master bill of lading as well. But we're going to dive deep into one of the use cases and actually showing it from end to end. And Cheryl, that's where you come in because you've given me access to your playground, as it were, with all of the pretty user interfaces and what have you, so that you can tell folks, what it means in payer, right?
Exactly. Happy to do that.
Awesome. So then we'll, and then of course we'll show everybody next step from there. So let's go ahead and move on. First of all, before we get into the MuleSoft practice itself, in case you didn't pick up on it, my name is Rick Mason. I am the MuleSoft practice lead here at TELUS Digital. Cheryl, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, and hello everyone. Cheryl Gibson. I'm a senior director here. I represent both go-to-market and, as Rick said, subject matter expert on health insurance.
Awesome. And then also I want to kind of do a plug for our integration practice in general. We have, I think, about 8 or 9 different integration architects, and in any one given time, up to 15 offshore and onshore, mostly offshore developers, to get a good mix of cost and availability and all of that. So we're a mature integration practice that has been going for more than 12 years within the company, but not so big that we're unapproachable, but not so small that we don't have lots of experience. I'm hoping all that makes sense, Cheryl, as far as a MuleSoft practice overview. What do you think?
It does. Small but mighty, Rick, is what I think.
That's exactly right. So that is us in a nutshell. And now we want to talk about actually kind of what IDP can do for you. For those who are new to IDP, the idea is that you've got a document that comes into you in some manner, and you need to pull data from that document and put it somewhere. It could be anywhere. It could come in many ways. And we're going to talk with Cheryl a little bit about what she's seen as far as what's actually happening on the human side of this when it has not been automated yet. But it's more than just, take that document and put it in the machine and plot value somewhere. Sometimes there needs to be humans in the mix. What happens if there are errors? What happens if things break down? So it's not just about that one piece of IDP. I like to say the IDP part is the least important part of it. It's all the other steps that go around IDP that make a whole automation, hyper automation, and end-to-end workflow make the whole thing work, because you have to ingest, you have to classify, you have to extract, then integrate and take action once the data is where it needs to be. So there's more to it than just take the document, put the data somewhere. There are other things, and we're going to demonstrate that. Some of the questions that we look at in 2025 and going forward is, how does generative AI come into the mix? Multimodal document understanding. So if a document comes in one way and in one mode, but it also can come in another way. It comes in by email. It comes in by a fax. It comes in the mail and somebody scans it on a scanning machine. There's many modes in which it can come in. There's also many modes in which it can go out, and many steps that generative AI can take along the way. We're not going to cover all of this, but these are some of the general questions that can go into IDP that need to be considered. Is everything cloud native? Is it scalable? If you're doing 100 documents today, are you going to be able to process 10,000 documents tomorrow? These are some of the questions that you need to ask when setting up an actual IDP process. We're going to be looking into a little bit of that, but it's important to understand, again, that the IDP part is the smallest part. It's just the ingestion of the document. What happens before that? What happens during that? What happens after that? And this slide represents some of those questions that need to be covered. The data quality, the governance, compliance. Where does the human in the loop fit? We don't have time to cover it all, but these are things that we would love to talk about and that you may have questions about. Cheryl, what do you think? Do you have anything to add to any of this?
I just agree, Rick, with everything you're saying, in that, while health insurance hasn't been known for being a very manual process, obviously a lot of other industries fall into that category as well. And, we need to encourage folks to work smarter, not harder. And I think IDP is really taking us down that path where we can work more efficiently and succinctly. So anxious to dig into that.
Awesome. I can't wait to get the part where we're actually showing, where your humans, the humans that you've seen, and just manually putting in stuff and all the mistakes that comes with it, right?
Absolutely. Yes, a lot.
We take that out of the mix and get some return on investment immediately in those use cases. That's exciting. Okay, so let's move on here. So let's talk about a couple of the use cases. So this could be anything, but I've got represented on the screen here is I've got some sort of an action where some data comes in through a document, and a person has to enter that data into the computer. And like I said, we live in a multimodal world, which means it can come in via fax, it can come in via somebody coming into a desk and plopping down a form, and you have to copy it. I've even had some clients where documents ended up in a box drive in a cloud type thing. So before IDP, a person would have to gather all of that stuff and manually enter it into a system. And in this case, what that represents is Salesforce. That's time consuming. It's expensive. Right? What the world that we want to get to, that is still not perfect, but the world that we want to get to is that human is not there 100% of the time. Instead, you've got some sort of an action that's taking over the ingestion of the document, whether that's coming in through mail, box, whatever, fax, for instance, whatever it could be. And then it's run through an intelligent document processing engine. That's another way to say a piece of OCR. If anyone has heard of OCR, ocular character recognition, it's been around a while now, but it's an AI that specializes in OCR. It says, take this document, we're going to do some natural language, go into OCR and extract data from it. That's what the IDP engine does. And then, of course, we want to take the next step and enter it into a system. In this case, Salesforce. It could be Salesforce. It could be ServiceNow. It could be NetSuite. It could be an ERP system. It could be anything. The real IDP, though. So this is what everybody thinks is theoretical. Oh, we're going to take humans out of it and it's going to save us lots of money. Well, people in the know that that's not really how it works. And that's a little scary because it doesn't actually save lots of money in the long run because AI makes mistakes. So what you need is you need a human in the loop. And that's what we have and what I like to call ideal IDP. That means that whatever this document comes in, MuleSoft or the IDP engine looks at it and goes, I think this is what it is, and this is what it is, and this is what it is. And I, as a person who's setting this up, can say to the AI, if you're 90% confident that this is good, go ahead and pass it on and put the data in. If you're not, however, put it in a queue and let a human look at it and do that. And now what you've got is you've got human in the loop while and before the data is going into the external system, in this case, Salesforce again, to catch mistakes, to make sure that somebody's watching over it. And now you freed up that human to not do the intensive task of typing and therefore making the errors, but actually looking at the big picture of what's in that document and thinking of other things. That's the important thing, right, Cheryl?
Yeah, and Rick, I was just going to say as well that, the old days of OCR, again, thinking about it from a health insurance perspective where claims and different documentation would come in from members. I remember the OCR screens looking like the old microfiche, where you could look at it, you're kind of squinting, trying to get the information, but literally every piece of documentation had to be looked at, reviewed by a human, and like you said, typing that information into another platform. So where we've come in terms of this ability to, like you said, it's not, 100%, but the ability to have that confidence level and not have a human looking at every single piece is a tremendous improvement.
Yeah, and Cheryl, you and I talked about this when we were at Dreamforce, and not 100%. That's a feature, not a bug. You want it more like 85%, but you want a human in there 15% of the time. You want to cut down on the workload tremendously, but at the same time, make sure that a human is there to watch and guide the whole thing. That's a feature, not a bug, right? All right.
Correct.
So let's go ahead and move on. And Cheryl talked about healthcare, but I'm going to show a little bit of other things beside healthcare, but we'll go. It's applicable to anything. And what you're seeing here is you're seeing a screenshot of what human in the loop looks like, right? So we can see in this particular screenshot that we've got an arrival notice, and we've got certain percentages of we think things are correct, and you see the one on here to the right. They think that the invoice date is only 78.57% correct. So this would be flagged in the system. And then the person who's looking at it, this person whom you've taken away all of that drudgery time where they make mistakes and instead look at all the important stuff, can go, yes, that's correct, or go in there and change it, and it's sped them up tremendously and done the most important part. So that's basically, and we look like we've got an invoice number here of BR634 at 57.81%. And it looks to me like the reason it's struggling there is that the font in this particular invoice is something that the OCR is not quite reading. That's not going to be the case all the time, but you can see as an example as to why you need a human in the loop, because it could get things wrong, and we have a mechanism for the human to make changes as necessary, confidence scores, all of that. Beautiful feature of MuleSoft IDP. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and go on to actually I'm going to show a couple things first before we get into Cheryl's actual use case that we do fully. I'm going to show everyone what it looks like on the MuleSoft side. What you're looking at now is what are known as document actions. And a document action is basically a piece of prompt engineering in the AI world that says when a document like this comes in, treat it this way and do this thing with it. If I was to make a new document, I could do ones that are out of the box, purchase orders, for instance, or I could do generic and I could make my own. And I'm going to do different things from different industries to show what that looks like. I've already got some made, of course, and I've got an invoice from out of the box. I don't have this set up in to run a full end-to-end on all of these, only on one of them, but I can show you what it looks like when I run a test. So I'm going to put an invoice in this out-of-the-box thing that comes with MuleSoft already. So I'm going to, and these are the out-of-the-box fields that MuleSoft provides, and I've got a document already ready to go here. So let's see here. I believe it is IDP folders. There we go. And invoices. Here's one right here. So I will pull this up and you can see that we've got a sample invoice with tabular data there. And I'm going to run this as a test in IDP just to see what I get back. And the idea, of course, is that all of this was set up. Oh, wow. That was much faster than it was on our practice run, wasn't it, Cheryl?
It was.
It took about 10 seconds. But you can see that it put in all of these values of what everything it got, from the document itself. Did a pretty good job. Okay, great. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you what it looks like for one that you build it from a prompt. And I'm going to show this here, and you're going to be able to see that it's a pretty complicated prompt. And for those who don't know a lot about prompt engineering yet, we will all be there in, I don't know, a few years, Cheryl, that we're all going to be prompt engineers of some kind, right? But of course, here at TELUS Digital, we are way ahead of the game. We've been doing this for a while, so we can help you with that if you're new at prompt engineering. But basically what I'm doing here is I'm instructing the AI to grab data and put it in this JSON format here and spit it out. So I will run that same document and see what I get. Maybe this one will take longer than 15 seconds. So what do you think so far, Cheryl? Are we getting the point across?
I think so. I mean, I'm just loving this, and oh, wow, very fast this time.
It was a whole lot faster. So what we ended up with is all of the information that I looked for in my document. The build to information, advanced distribution is going to be over here somewhere. There we go. Advanced distribution 465 and what have you. And you can see it operates pretty fast. It can also get pretty complicated. I'm going to show another one. This is I'm doing an arrival notice. And specifically, I'm doing a master bill of lading. And on this one, for instance, it could be either an air bill of lading or a sea bill of lading. Cheryl, I don't know how much you know about the logistics industry, but
Not much.
It can get pretty complicated. And after this, we're going to go on to the Cheryl show. So I will get a document for this one. Let's see here. So this is a master bill of lading over the sea, over basically a ship. Oh, that's not what we wanted. Here we go. So we're going to run that and see what we get.
So I think it prepared us for this one taking a little bit longer, but no, yet
No.
again.
No, it's going pretty fast. So we look at, and we got all the data that I was looking for in that pretty complicated. For instance, here, flight member is null. Well, that makes sense because it's a boat. So it's technically a vessel, things like that. So that's just an idea of kind of how the whole thing works. And also, we had to wait a couple seconds, which is going to make sense when I talk about how it actually runs when we go through your use case, Cheryl, because we've actually got it reading some of your pre-authorization requests, right?
Correct.
We're going to read it. We're going to get data back, and we're going to load it into Salesforce. So now, Cheryl, I'm going to go back to this, and I don't know if you want to start here or what. You just tell me what to do, and I will do that.
Absolutely. Yes, we will start here and to just give the folks that are watching our recording just a little bit of background, and then we will jump into the demo. So, just like, Rick, what you were saying about just overall industry challenges with bringing in data, payers, health insurance companies, again, whatever terminology you want to use, they are not strangers to manual processes. They really use them quite regularly. Faxes, Excel spreadsheets, continue to use those heavily. So just to hit a few of them and why we chose the use case we did is that really there's a lot of competitive landscape with payers. There's a lot of different insurance companies for folks to choose from. And really what can drive some challenges there from a retention aspect. And retention, obviously you want to keep whatever members you have because it costs more to get new ones, right? Mm-hmm. So what can lead to challenges are poor member experience and plan complexity. We're going to hit on kind of two of these in our example. One is poor member experience. When you're talking about prior authorization, meaning that you have to get permission before you have a particular type of procedure, that can cause a lot of abrasion, as you can imagine. And then the second thing we're going to talk about is operational inefficiencies, right? And we hit on this earlier in that you're absorbing that fax from the provider and you're rekeying all the information and requiring a workflow from that perspective. These other items I'll just briefly address. But, payers are also seeing that members are moving from health plan to health plan for reasons that we've already described, and members not feeling engaged and not feeling that really personalization with their health plan. It's more of an adversarial relationship instead of, wanting to have that relationship with your health insurance.
Not good.
Yeah, not good. So we can go ahead and go to the next screen if you'd like. So what use case we're going to use today, and again, we've given, everyone kind of some point of reference here, but we're going to focus on Ramona, and we'll just briefly take you through her life as a customer service manager. And, Rick, she's feeling pressure. She is not a happy camper at this point in time because she leads an intake nurses, and they're doing exactly what we described. They're getting all these faxes come in because she works for a large payer, and she just feels that they're not taking advantage of automation, and the sheer volume is just overwhelming. So she sees that their lack of efficiency is causing delays. That is not only frustrating to the members, but to the providers, because then the providers don't know if it's going to be approved or not. So she is in a deep world of hurt, and we're going to help her, Rick, with what we come up with. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide.
Awesome.
So briefly to just talk about her journey, again, we won't spend a lot of time here, but, and this I think is appropriate for other industries as well. You start with the awareness that you're aware the problem is large and complex. And sometimes you really can't even get over that hurdle. They say the best way to eat an elephant is a bite at a time, right? Because otherwise it's overwhelming. So the next thing that she does is investigate, knowing that, okay, I need to figure out what is the best solution. And we're going to tell her how to do that. So she's going to be excited. She's going to communicate that. She's going to help her team understand this is the new process, and they're going to be thrilled. Now, in the meantime, they're probably going to have some fear of resistance, but they'll get over that. And then she's going to get to the stage of change management, which, sometimes that can lead to some setbacks initially, but what she's going to find is success on moving forward with this process. And then lastly, sense of pride and satisfaction. She's going to be thrilled that these prior authorization forms are coming in and creating healthcare request records within Health Cloud. All right, moving forward.
Awesome.
And so just to tee up the use case, and then Rick is going to show us the technical magic on the background, but we're going to focus on the submission and initial review. Again, where a provider submits a prior authorization form to the health insurance company for that particular member, the intake nurse ensures the request is complete. And as of today, they manually key that information into Health Cloud in the care request object. So
painful.
Very painful, especially if you're not a fast typist and you have long nails. That can be extra painful. So we're going to focus on this particular part of the use case. And what you'll see as well when we get done with this particular part of the demo, that you could also take this through from a clinical review, decision-making, and notification and documentation, which we won't go through today. But this is just really the tip of the iceberg to move forward and automate.
You've actually got on this screen like 4 different areas that
Yes.
you can help with automation, either IDP or Salesforce Health Cloud or
Exactly.
other things to tighten up this process in general, start to finish. And we're just covering the start right now,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So it's all yours, Rick.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Then what I'll do is, first of all, I'm gonna kind of show everybody what a basic thing looks like in MuleSoft. If you're not familiar with MuleSoft, you can basically represent it. The code is here, and it can be quite complicated, but it's also represented in pictures, so that you can kind of get a sense of what's happening. What I built this thing to do is I built this thing to do a couple of things. First of all, it listens for a trigger. It's important for you watching to understand that there are many things that can be a trigger. And I had said this before, it could be somebody drops something in Box, a cloud implementation of Box. It could be an SFTP server, if you know what that is. What is very common in multiple industries now is something known as eFax. We started with fax in the 90s, and then in the 2000s, mid-2000s, 2011, 2012, we went to eFax, and that is still around so that people can do eFax machines, but now computers can tune into that and get whatever's in the fax. So what I'm doing is I am simulating that. Rather than listening to eFax, I'm looking at a form being dropped in a particular folder on my machine. It could be an eFax folder as well. Doesn't matter. But that's what this represents on new updated files. So MuleSoft is listening on my machine to a new file, but that could also be a new file in the customer, your system. It could be anywhere in the cloud that you have where you could set up. It could come in via email. We have one client that's doing this through Exchange server, and we listen to an email box, and that email to this address has an attachment. There's the PDF. We read everything and we continue. It could be something like that. So a lot of different things can trigger it. So then what we do is we extract all the PDF, and we then send that PDF to the engine that I showed you earlier. Here is the engine. I'm going to actually show you which one it is. It's called authorization request. So let's see. I think this is the one that, whoa, here we go, edit. And this is the engine to extract data with the prompt, and we'll show you what all of that looks like. I will show you one of the files, and I'm not going to do it on this. I'm actually going to have my program do it, but I'll show it to you anyway. And what we're looking for is this right here. So I'm going to take this authorization request and send it to that MuleSoft program that's going into the IDP engine, as it were. So that was the document. It comes in here. I send it to the MuleSoft engine, and it's going to take a couple seconds for the MuleSoft engine to get done. So what MuleSoft does is it polls the IDP engine and says, hey, are you done yet? If you're done, give me all of this stuff. And then once I get the stuff, that's through here, I'm going to call into Salesforce and create a care request. In addition, I'm going to create authorization items. So let's first look at Charles Green. This is the guy that we're going to end up doing an authorization request for. And you see he's already got one in there already. But what we're going to do is we're going to imagine that this one has come in for Charles Green. You see him right here. And we're going to take all this stuff then and fill out a care request record. What do you think? Do I need to add anything else, Cheryl? Am I ready to go?
You are ready to go. That was perfect.
Okay, so what my program is doing is it's listening to this folder. Remember, it could listen to an SFTP folder anywhere else. It could be on your cloud. It could be Box. It could be listening to email, whatever. But I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it. Oh, wait. Let me set up one more thing. I forgot to do one more thing, and that is we're going to look at the console here. And I'm going to clear this. I believe that's it, so that we know that we've got new stuff coming in. And I'm going to put that, get in there. This part doesn't like me, Cheryl.
It really doesn't.
Here, we'll just do this. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. Hopefully that didn't change anything. All right, now let's go back over here and see if we've got anything going. There we go. We've got an error, and the error that we have is correct because the MuleSoft is listening to the IDP engine. The IDP isn't finished yet. And now it came back and it said info. Guess what? It's finished. It went and got all of this data. So now this doesn't show all the data. This shows all of the records that were created. But let's look and see what that actually looks like in Salesforce. So I'm going to refresh this page. And we've got a new authorization request record right here with 2 authorization items that came across via that authorization request. What do you think, Cheryl?
I think that is a thing of beauty, Rick, because just think about this authorization request coming in from Charles, his provider, asking for a couple of different CPT codes with, specific dates of service in mind. And that information coming in so quickly, immediately creating a care request record with the authorization items. So Ramona and her team, from an intake perspective, they can start work immediately. And, just if you think about the ways that automation can move, and just to speak to a couple of them, some authorizations don't require any additional clinical review outside of the intake nurse. They can approve it. But some may require what's called a peer-to-peer, in which the medical director at the health insurance company will speak to the physician and, talk to the, criticalness of that particular procedure. So being able to set up Salesforce in a way that has logic or approval criteria, all of that information can be done based on this information already being captured in Salesforce. So
I can see a whole bunch of other stuff here in Salesforce
Oh, yes.
that I don't understand, but it can be set up to handle many different scenarios, right?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to finish up here. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for I just move data. Sometimes I don't know actually what it does. It's so nice to have somebody that knows what all of that means. But what I wanted to talk about is what the reality of what IDP is today, right? And the reality is that the human in the loop is so important. We can have multiple ways of setting up the process, right? That's it can come in via email. That's what the HTML thing is for. Sometimes people write emails, right? We got to extract the data from that. It can come in Exchange Server, Box, SFTP, eFax, multiple different ways it can come in. We have to have the ability to have a human in the loop for when confidence is not very high. And then we have to have the ability to put the data wherever it needs to go, right? That's what we want IDP to do. It's not just the read the document part, it's all of the other stuff as well. We need to be able to do more with that. Let's say something comes in an IDP and we put it into Salesforce. Oh, there's something else needs to happen after the fact. Now MuleSoft can go in and create records in NetSuite if you need a financial ERP. Create records in SAP, for instance, if you are a manufacturer or a logistics company of some kind. And it can get pretty complicated in that you can have multiple IDPs, actions, as it were, with multiple processes that can use different parts of other parts. And that is the power of MuleSoft. It allows you to mix and match and reuse things that you built as you get better at IDP in the future. That's kind of the power of what not just IDP can do, but what the MuleSoft system around IDP can do, especially when you've got somebody like Cheryl here, an expert in the particular industry that you need help in, to set up the processes that's going to allow you to get economies of scale, return on investment, fewer errors, and basically more peace of mind. That's what IDP means to me, is peace of mind. When done well, human in the loop.
Yes.
All right. So with that, I think we're gonna stop our presentation, and we're going to put a QR code on here. I think if you're seeing this, you probably already know how to get a hold of us, but just in case, you can contact us that way. Cheryl, thank you so much for participating in this with me.
Absolutely, Rick. I was happy to. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.